things change, people change is inevitable. But we're talking about when video game franchises change, whether it be from a different developer or a different direction entirely. So I want to talk about when franchises change, mostly because this weird idea where some people say if a franchise changes in a way they like, that it's, oh, it didn't change, it just quote unquote found its identity. When it's changed a bad way they like, then suddenly it's a bad thing, and it's not, and suddenly they change for bad reasons. So let's get to some examples. Use the Persona 2 as an example. You have the first three games, Persona 1, 2 Into Sin, and 2 Eternal Punishment, with the way they play, having the 5 party member schemes, having fusion attacks with Persona 2 duology, Persona 1 also having the ability to be able to pick what the 5th party member is, the Snow Creek quest as well, and the entire formula stated. But then Persona 3 changed up the formula to be more, oh, here's more social elements, here's social links, here's dating sim mechanics essentially, on top of being RPG. And that's become the post to what Persona is to people, and people try to treat it as, oh, Persona didn't change, it just gained identity. Except the first 3 games had an identity, so I don't understand what this claim is that just gain identity. It seems to be more of a case of, since people like the change, they want to pretend like it changed. They want to pretend like no, it's instead trying to spin out something more positive when just fast fact, it's a change. The franchise shifted to a different direction. To a different direction isn't good or bad, but it has changed before, and I've seen people use this to say why Persona shouldn't change again because it has a formula. But at the same time, it had a formula before, but now people are trying to treat it as if now if it changes, then it loses identity. Even though it did lose identity before when it shifted direction to have more social elements. So does something, a change working means that, oh, this is the franchise getting its identity? Let's go for a more recent example, the Final Fantasy franchise, where each entry tries to be unique and do its own entire thing, so the gameplay can drastically change, especially over the course of games, where we're now seeing a more increase of action RPGs for the Final Fantasy mainline entries, and there are people upset about this, from like, Final Fantasy changed too much, but change is part of Final Fantasy's identity, so I don't understand that whole entire complaint. Vice versa, I don't get the people who feel the idea that Final Fantasy can never change or do turn-based again, as if that now suddenly means alienation, when either or is you're gonna alienate someone. This also highlights the fact that people truly cared this much. Where are these sales for these spin-off titles? Like, for the actual Final Fantasy fans, I should have seen a spike in sales something like Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, or Stranger of Paradise especially, for action Final Fantasy games, but no, people generally just make jokes and ignore it. Or something like for turn-based fans. Where were y'all for something like World of Final Fantasy, which is not only just a celebration of franchise, but also World of Final Fantasy also brought back ATB system and its own unique mechanics. But once again, the numbers are showing that people are on board with this, despite claiming change being bad. They want what they usually had before. So it's also a weird stigma where it's only counted if it's a mainline title of a franchise, and spin-offs just get ignored, even if the spin-off is doing exactly what people want. Another example, let's go with the Soul Calibur franchise, where a constant complaint I've seen people had towards Soul Calibur 5, amongst many complaints, is the fact that Soul Calibur 5 was the first entry to introduce super meters, and also the critical edge system. We have a big, powerful attack that costs meter. It also made certain mechanics before that didn't have a meter, such as trying to do freaking parries, require a meter, which was a huge complaint for people that felt like it was trying to be more offensive, or also try to be more akin to Street Fighter with more super meter, spectacle, and all that. And that whole type of complaint that some people still have for Soul Calibur 6, where, oh, look at these critical edges, look at these fancy animations, look at these super meters and all that, where people generally don't like that, feel like it changed too much. Even though it's an inclusion of a new mechanic, people felt like this is not what Soul Calibur should be. Also Tekken, with Rage Arts and Rage Drives, where people don't like that one-time mechanic because some people just want more simplistic fighting game. They don't want super mechanics, super meters, super fancy animations. They just want things more simpler, which I've seen now for being a wish for the Virtua Fighter fans, where they want Virtua Fighter to be more simple, what it was before, and not necessarily to change and adapt or try to be something it's not. Now, coming to compete with other fighting games nowadays, they want what they had before, simple, plain. That's what they want. But they don't want something more flashy, dramatic, that's clearly trying to more entice onlookers or non-fans to join, and that's something that's a worry for Virtua Fighter fans. Let's look at the Mega Man franchise, which has so many different styles of Mega Man in it, but there are people who I don't really like some, or just flat out ignore most of them. Such as, you have classic Mega Man, classic 2D side-scrolling, NES style, everything such of that, where people enjoy that. They don't much care. Some people like don't enjoy classic. They don't much care for X, which is more emphasis on more being faster, being more difficult as well because of more set speed. Also upgrades and all that. Powerful buster, more powerful super version of weapons, so stuff like that. But some people aren't into that. Some people aren't into the Zero games, where it's like, hey, if you want to get more abilities, you have to just not upgrade Zero, which is a weird whole entire requirement. But hey, when upgrade Zero make more powerful, use the Cyber Elves and all that. But some people don't like the Zero games and how those gameplay. Also, the fact that they're on handheld devices, so screen crunch. Some people don't like the ZX games and how they're more puzzle-oriented or trying to figure out how to get to the next location with the biometals you have on you and stuff like that. Some people don't like that aspect. Then you have the more RPG side, Battle Network. Some people don't like the more card game-esque RPG mechanics of Battle Network, and most of us are gonna ignore its entire existence as a result. Some don't like Star Force, which try to more simplify it, but also make it more 3D style with this one-time mechanic. And also Mega Man Legends, which is more slow-paced exploration. So many different styles, but people just don't like it. So just the fact that the most common thing you'll see is people who only want a sequel to classic Mega Man. That's all they want. To them, that's all Mega Man is and should be, and they don't want any of this other stuff as an example. Or Mega Man 11, which got flack because it included a new mechanic where it's like, oh, you can buff Mega Man's Buster, or you can temporarily slow down time, which people felt like was trying to give him more of an upgrade-based gimmick a la the X series. It felt like this is what Mega Man, classic Mega Man specifically, should be as a result. So it's kind of one type weird thing, where it's a franchise where so many different things are different, but people generally just think that, no, the identity of Mega Man is classic 2D Mega Man, none of the other stuff. Maybe sometimes X for some people, they'll give those less slides aside for X. But when it comes to Mega Man, to them it's just classic Mega Man. That's all they want. They want Mega Man 12. They don't want X9. They don't want Legends 3. They don't want Star Force 4. They don't want Battle Network 7. They don't want whatever a third ZX game would be called. They just want classic Mega Man. NES style. It's the Devil May Cry franchise, where early Devil May Cry games, you can heavily see the Resident Evil roots of the whole entire project, the whole fixed camera angle, whole way more puzzle aspects going into it, especially at Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3. But then you start going to the more shifting with Devil May Cry 4, we're like, oh, here's this new character you can play as, and stuff like that. So I start shifting, and Devil May Cry 5 focus way more on the action gameplay, to the point where puzzle aspects were basically just removed entirely, and basically don't exist in that game. And some people didn't like that. They wanted the more puzzle aspects the other Devil May Cry games had, and for like Devil May Cry 5 changed a bit too much in that angle. Top of people not liking multiple characters. Some people just want to play as Dante and nobody else, because they hate fun. But that's not the point. So it's not what to ask about Devil May Cry 5. Like, you don't need to talk about the reboot because people complain about Devil May Cry changing too much. You just talk about Devil May Cry 5 specifically and how aspects of earlier titles just aren't there anymore. Some people are like, but I like this aspects of the earlier titles, and just gone. I felt it changed a bit too much in that regard. The Castlevania franchise, going from 2D stage-based platformers during those games to then shifting to Metroidvania style with Symphony of the Night. I will keep calling Metroidvania style. If someone tries to tell me to call it search action, I will call first-person shooters Wolfendoom. So it has more Metroidvania, more exploration-based, combined with RPG mechanics on top of that, and that became the dominant playstyle for this franchise for so many years, at least until Lords of Shadow decided, okay, let's try more action gameplay, also with the other 3D entries like Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness. But people saw it as, oh, Lords of Shadow, on top of just being a reboot, so it's designed to be different. Felt that it was too different, nothing to do with Castlevania. But also in the day and age where people talk about Castlevania, they generally think of Symphony of the Night, which is not Castlevania started. which is like a whole weird topic where the most popular idea of a franchise is not actually how the franchise started. It's just the most popular entry of a franchise. Like Final Fantasy VII plays nothing like Final Fantasy 1, for example, but people think Final Fantasy 7. People think Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and Symphony of the Night is drastically different. That's the fact that you're not playing as Belmont, you're playing as Alucard. But that's what comes to mind. And it's like, does that mean a change is bad? Is the change creating more popularity it worked? Is the franchise changing too much a bad thing? A big example is also Legend of Zelda franchise, where Breath of the Wild decided to shake things up a bit, since one of the biggest complaints for Zelda around that time was the Zelda formula, the constant formula of go to dungeon, get item in dungeon, use item on boss, win, repeat. And that happened for several games, and some more people literally named it the Zelda Cycle and all that. So Breath of the Wild's like, okay, what if we shifted some things? What if all the main things you got earlier in the game, what if you have this paraglider, where you could just climb random stuff and just do stuff like that? And there are people complaining that Zelda has changed too much, even going to Tears of the Kingdom as well, or some people don't like the direction, instead of not liking a new direction. People hate the idea that this is not, quote-unquote, what Zelda should be. And it's like, whereas even early Zelda had like different ideas of what Zelda should be, but just weird idea that, oh, now that Zelda's trying to shift a new direction, it would not be as stale as predictable. Now people are upset and think Zelda has changed too much, even though it's like, you still have dungeons and stuff, you still have stuff you can find around the world. It's the fact that your main tools are the stuff you have early on. So the game is built around the main tools you have, with Tears of the Kingdom deciding, okay, I'm going to add the whole entire fuse mechanic, so now you can also, hey, what can you find around you? Use that stuff to go do stuff. I understand the complaints of the shrines being mini bite-sized dungeons that could be kind of annoying for the amount of them, but the game still had dungeons. We're playing like Breath of the Wild has no dungeons. No, the Divine Beasts are there. You cannot like the direction of the dungeons being a Divine Beast, but a Divine Beast is still a dungeon. So I'll get that complaint. And then that Tears of the Kingdom finally brought back dungeons. No, it didn't go anywhere. They just took a different form. So can a video game franchise truly change too much? The answer is yes. Yes, the franchise can change so much that it's unrecognizable from the original franchise, what its idea was even going for. But not entirely a bad thing. Not necessarily, although it does pretty much, alienate people who prefer what the franchise was before, and it can lead to resentment, like people who don't, let's say people that enjoy the popular entry that defined what the franchise became, and may lead to resentment, feel like they've pretty much just been tossed to the wayside by developers, but also the fact that it's also different developers that could also hypothetically come in and change things radically, like Persona, for example. Seeing as Studio Zero now exists with the Persona team, Persona 6 could look very different with a whole new dev team being in charge. So, will they keep the formula? Will they not? Who knows? I want them to change just because they've been changing every 3 mainline games. If we do mainline games, let's change again. Let's see what crazy stuff we can come up with. There's another aspect, the idea that trying to keep things the same always kind of also means developers can't flex any new ideas they have themselves as well. To also always keep things the same. That they can't show off any new ideas, which is also a problem where people generally also don't want to change entirely. Remember with Mario Odyssey and how that was made by typically more younger developers at Nintendo? I remember pitching that idea to my friend of how do I feel like a Mario game that's made by younger developers at Nintendo. He said he hated the idea. Then once on Mario Odyssey as a result of that, he immediately swapped to, you have my attention. So sometimes it's just people don't know what they want necessarily on top of a custom change. For the type of Final Fantasy example, I've heard of Final Fantasy 16 being an action game and everything really seems to split people who want either more turn-based games, play World of Final Fantasy then, is real good. People who want more action Final Fantasy, play Treasure Paradise, it's also real good. So, it's just the fact that some people always want what they want in a franchise, and a franchise can basically lose what it originally had. I mean, like Call of Duty during the era of people were like, too much sci-fi, we need boots to the ground. And now look at also popular Call of Duty entries like Black Ops 2, which is more sci-fi. So that's a weird aspect, but sometimes the franchise can change too much, so it just depends on what developers want to do. And if developers don't do it, There'll probably be some other developers, whether it be people from the studio who left, or any developers who will carry on that torch, because game franchises don't die, they get reborn. So that's one topic I want to talk about, game franchises that changed drastically over the years. It just becomes something entirely different than what they were initially.